Dean Okai, and he is a civic and social entrepreneur and founder of the African Diaspora Public Affairs Committee, and he's coming up to speak about positive mindsets. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I think one of the most important things of that civic mindset has been demonstrated this morning by Oveta, and that's succession plan. And we see it in Reese. If you look at what Oveta's doing, she's investing in Reese. She's giving him the experience, she's giving him her trust, and he's earning it as he's here today. This is where I find myself in life now. When I started my journey, I moved out at 18 years old. I was very romantic, irrespective of thinking I was a worldly man. I thought I knew everything at 18 years old. I'd read Malcolm X. As far as I was concerned, I had a black print that was going to serve me all the way to becoming a millionaire by 21. Today at 48, I don't believe in anything at this stage of my life. I either know or I don't know. And that forces me to do two things. If I know, I speak. If I don't know, I listen and I take counsel. So I remain a student at 48 because I know that there is no destination called success that I land at. As I accomplished becoming a retailer at 22, and then by 24 losing that business to 3 burglaries, I realized that nothing is set on solid foundations. And unless you come to know yourself, and I mean really know yourself, because when you have a big vision, you have big appetites. And not everybody shares that big vision at the same time as you. And if you buy into what all of the dissenting voices say, you'll never arrive at any destination. So the reason I moved out at 18 is because me and my mum would butt heads all the time. First of all, I was a bad guy when I was a young man. I was a ladies' man, and I didn't treat the house with the most respect. And that would be one of our contentions. But our biggest contention was that my mum saw that I had an entrepreneurial mind. And my father was a musician, and my mum was a legal secretary who went on to further training and became a paralegal. And she said, get a proper job. Now, every day after my parents had divorced, I'd see my mum come home and she wasn't happy in a proper job. And I said, that wasn't for me. And I saw my dad, who was a musician, and there was no consistent income. And I said, that wasn't for me. So what was my journey in between that? Now at school, I was selling pirate videos and adult videos from the age of 13 continually until I moved out. And that made me money. And making money and being self-sustaining made me happy. Now, I'm the oldest of 3, and I stopped taking money from my mum when we moved out and my parents divorced at 13 years old. So from 13, however I did it at school, I came to buy my own clothes. My younger brother was at the same school as me, and people would say, how come you don't dress like your brother? Because his clothes came from Marks and Spencer's, and I would buy a Teflon pants because I didn't want to bother my mum for money. But we were butt heads on this issue. I want you to get a proper job. And then it came to me having an interview at Brit School. I was always a firm believer in defending my ideas, defending my rights to be who I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. Now, I'm also someone, as a Virgo, who lives inside his own head. We're very analytical. We'll look at it once, we'll look at it twice, we'll look at it 3 times, and then we might make a decision. So what I knew is that I wanted to be a filmmaker. And we were driving to my interview at Brit School. And my mum, like me today, not being able to find here, said, I want to turn around. And I'm thinking, this is my life. This is my journey. Now, I know my mum wanted me to do something that was concrete, but there was something in my spirit. And I talk about spirit because it's the one intangible that will save you through the whole of your life. It's that voice of your ancestors that speaks to you. Every single time you're in the face of doubt and nobody believes in your vision, your ancestors will speak to you. And they will bring you over that doubt. And this is why I say, don't worry about people sharing your vision today, because my mum wanted to turn around. I forced her to go to that interview. And I got into Brit School. And for the first time, I thought I had landed. I'm on the course to becoming a filmmaker. Now, at 17, I discovered young ladies. Also, at 17, I discovered the allure of the road. And I was very distracted by two things: young ladies and the allure of the road. So I had friends in North Peckham that I would go to all dayers with, and I would be on the street with, and I allowed my discipline to wane and became fully distracted by that. When I moved out at 18, I moved back to New Cross, where I originally lived and went to school, and fell in with all of my petty criminal friends from primary school. And this is why I say there's no place of arriving. Because after 2 years of running my pirate video business and then becoming embroiled in selling stolen goods, petty criminality, drinking, the constabulary rudely broke into my apartment in February 1995. That was all the education I required that this life wasn't for me. I sat in Ladywell police station for 9 hours with no food. And after my interview, I walked from Ladywell back to New Cross. And when I walked from Ladywell back to New Cross, I had a long think about where I was. And I had a mentor who was an estate agent. He didn't mentor me on that. The empty properties that he had that were commercial properties, we'd run a shebeen from them on a weekend, and I'd tend the bar. And his instruction to me was, don't let any man put his hand behind the bar and touch my drink. Now, this was in Crystal Palace Church Road, and there were some men that were very well known in Brixton, Stockwell and Streatham that would frequent these shebeens. So I had to develop a style of dealing with them so as not to offend them, because I didn't really have the capacity to defend the bar. So I had to develop my charm so that I was respected. This is one of the things that I learned, that being in different spaces, you will gain a lot of soft skills that will serve you throughout your life, that you don't necessarily realize that you're picking up along the way, but they serve you well. And what that taught me to do was rub shoulders with the royalty, but go down the numbers all the way to 2. And within that, I used those same skills that I gained running a shebeen, not letting anybody put their hand behind the bar, to this day. I don't need to challenge someone who's come in conflict with me. I don't know how they woke up. I don't know how they went to bed. I don't know what happened to them along their journey to get to me. And I don't own it. So it's got nothing to do with me. I don't engage my ego. I've come to do what I've come to do. And I convey that to young people. Take your ego out of the equation. So when we see young people today and we see the proliferation of violence, I've been in those situations. Where I lived in Kenneton Ethelred Estate, I was coming home to the people that young guys are calling ops today. My friends were in New Cross and Peckham. So I'm coming into an area where I live where these guys are looking at me funny. I have been surrounded by 8 young men, all carrying knives, after Stephen Lawrence was murdered. And just the capacity to keep your powder dry can save your life. Not to capitulate, because that can also get you in trouble. But to be quiet when you're supposed to be quiet, and be a man in the way that you're supposed to be a man, it can save your life. All of these matrix of skills that you come across on the different roads are to be conveyed in succession planning. The reason I set up ADPAC is because I find myself at 48 being the man that I desired to meet and mentor me at 18. That man was somebody that could teach me how to conduct myself in rooms. That man was someone who could teach me how to love my children. That man was someone to show me that peer pressure is irrelevant, because when it's all said and done, when you've got nothing, nobody's interested. Everybody loved Jesus while he could turn water into wine. But when he was on the cross, it's Barabbas that they took down. So it's all irrelevant. The biggest lesson I can tell anybody through the course of their life is to get to know you very well. Know what you want, know what you don't want, understand that what you believe doesn't add up to a hill of beans. What you master is what you know, and what you don't know is when you should listen and learn to take you to the next platform of your journey. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Dean, for that. Talking about a positive mindset, one of the biggest takeaways was at the end, get to know you, what you want and what you don't want, and how that affects your reality. Thank you so much for that, Dean.